oceans contain only a tenth of the marlin and tuna that lived in them 80 years ago, which may be why the tuna sandwich at Subway is mostly Miracle Whip and hair. The history of Earthlings, they will note that this election ended with an impassioned debate about who was garbage. There actually is an island of garbage in the ocean. But the only person who mentioned it during the whole campaign was the insult comic.
Breaking news. Humans now consume 1 credit card worth of plastic every week. No, this isn't a promo for a new extreme eating show. It's our new reality thanks to ocean pollution. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. While politicians are busy with their great garbage election, we're turning into walking, talking credit card dispensers. Curious how we got here and what it means for our future? Keep watching to uncover the trashy truth about our oceans. Imagine swimming in a sea of credit cards. That's basically what fish do now. Welcome to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, nature's very own landfill. It's like someone decided to turn the ocean into a giant trash can, and we're all pitch perfect at tossing our junk right in. But here's the kicker, it's not just one patch. Nope, we've got 2 for the price of 1. These twin trash titans are growing faster than Trump's ego after a rally. And trust me, that's saying something. Speaking of size, let's put this in perspective. The patches are now bigger than Texas, Alaska, and California combined. It's like we're trying to build a new plastic continent out there. Maybe we should call it Trashlantis? Every year, we dump about 8 million tons of plastic into our oceans. That's like throwing a garbage truck full of plastic into the ocean every minute. At this rate, we'll have more plastic than fish in the sea by 2050.
The ocean. It's dying. Dying, we're killing it, and we can't live without it. We might.
Talk about a fishy situation. But wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. Most of this plastic doesn't just float around in big chunks. No, it breaks down into tiny pieces called microplastics. These little troublemakers are so small, they're practically invisible. And guess what? They're everywhere. Now, remember that credit card I mentioned earlier? Well, here's the real gut puncher. On average, we're ingesting about 5 grams of plastic every week. That's right, folks, we're literally eating a credit card's worth of plastic weekly. And we're not even getting any credit score points for it. So next time you're enjoying your seafood dinner, just remember, you might be getting a side of Visa with your salmon. But wait, it gets worse. While we're swallowing credit cards with our seafood, our leaders are swallowing their tongues on environmental issues. Here's a head-scratcher. During the entire political campaign, guess who was the only one to mention ocean health? Hint, it wasn't a politician. Buckle up, folks. This revelation might make you want to dump your representatives overboard. Turns out, the only person who brought up the ocean's health during the campaign was an insult comic. Yeah, you heard that right. While our oceans are turning into a giant microplastic smoothie, politicians are too busy serving up Twitter burns to notice. It's like they're playing a game of who can ignore the environment the longest. And let me tell you, they're all winning. Remember when political debates used to be about important issues? Well, now they're more like a competition for who can say the dumbest thing. In the last presidential debate, the environment came up once. Just once.
This island of floating garbage that politicians dare not speak its name, it's actually 2. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is 3 times the size of France. He knows how big the garbage patches are because most of it is under the surface. Trillions of microparticles from decades of discarded plastic.
And what did our dear Kamala do with this golden opportunity? She bragged about increasing gas production to historic levels. Gee, thanks, Kamala. That's like bragging about how much junk food you ate while on a diet. Bill Maher, in his typical no-holds-barred style, pointed out that we might be able to invent our way out of the mess we've made of the atmosphere. But the oceans? That's a whole other kettle of dead fish. And speaking of dead fish, our politicians seem to have the memory of one when it comes to environmental issues. It's not just Kamala, though. Apparently, throwing the environment under the bus, or should I say, under the oil tanker, is the new cool thing to do. Gotta win those fracking votes in Pennsylvania and automobile votes in Michigan, right? Who cares if we're turning our oceans into a giant plastic soup? At least we'll have jobs, until the planet becomes uninhabitable, that is. So why are politicians more interested in Twitter burns than our burning planet? Maybe because you can't get likes and retweets from fish? Or perhaps they think if they ignore the problem long enough, it'll go away, just like their chances of re-election if they keep this up. But it's not just politicians dropping the ball. It's entire species vanishing from our oceans. Think your tuna sandwich tastes a bit off lately? There might be a fishy reason for that, and it's not what you'd expect. Let's dive into the shocking truth about what's really swimming, or not, in our seas. Remember when catching a fish meant catching an actual fish? Those were the days. Now, you're more likely to reel in a six-pack holder than a six-pack of fish. Our oceans are turning into a sad, salty soup with more plastic than fish. The numbers are as depressing as a wet sandwich. Fish populations are dropping faster than Trump's approval ratings. We've gone from seas teeming with life to underwater ghost towns. It's like someone hit the flush button on the ocean's toilet and all our fishy friends got sucked down the drain. Speaking of fish, let's talk tuna. Bill Maher joked that the tuna sandwich at Subway is mostly Miracle Whip and hair now. Gross, right? But he's not far off. Tuna populations have taken such a nosedive that finding a real tuna in your sandwich is like finding a coherent tweet from you-know-who. Rare and probably fake. But wait, there's more bad news. Ever heard of dead zones? No, it's not where politicians' environmental policies go to die.
Just one word. Plastics.
Exactly how do you mean?
There's a great future in plastics.
That guy was right. Plastic is in everything now. Our soil, our food, our Kardashian.
Although that's not a bad guess. Dead zones are areas in the ocean where oxygen levels are so low that marine life can't survive. It's like underwater ghost towns. But instead of tumbleweeds, you've got floating plastic bags. These dead zones are popping up faster than fake news on Facebook. They're turning parts of our oceans into no-go zones for fish. It's like we're playing a twisted game of musical chairs with marine life, and every time the music stops, there are fewer places for them to swim. So, how bad is it really? Hold on to your fishing rods, folks. Compared to 80 years ago, there are now less than 3% of the tuna left in our oceans. That's right, we've managed to fish out 97% of them. It's like we're playing Finding Nemo, but Nemo's chances of being found are slimmer than a politician's chance of admitting they were wrong. But surely we're recycling our way out of this, right? Wrong. Turns out, our recycling efforts are about as effective as using a fork to bail out a sinking ship. But that's a whole other can of worms, or should I say, can of tuna. Remember that warm, fuzzy feeling you get when you toss a plastic bottle in the recycling bin? Well, hold on to your eco-friendly hats, folks, because we're about to burst that bubble faster than you can say compostable coffee cup. The truth about recycling is messier than a politician's expense report. We've all been told that recycling is the magic solution to our plastic problem. It's like a diet where you can eat all the junk food you want, as long as you sort the wrappers afterward. Sounds great, right? Well, spoiler alert, it doesn't work. Here's the trashy truth. Only 9% of all the plastic ever made has been recycled. That's right, 9%. You've got a better chance of finding a politician who doesn't flip-flop than a piece of plastic that actually gets recycled.
Humans now consume the equivalent of a credit card of plastic every week because we eat the fish that eat the plastic. Zones in the ocean, areas where the oxygen levels have fallen so low that fish that enter them suffocate and die, have increased 10 times over.
So where does all that recycled plastic end up? Well, it's not turning into shiny new water bottles, that's for sure. Most of it gets shipped off to poorer countries, where it often takes a scenic tour of their rivers before settling into the ocean. It's like a plastic vacation package, except the only thing getting a tan is the environment. And let's talk about wish cycling, the practice of tossing anything remotely plastic-looking into the recycling bin and hoping for the best. It's like playing environmental roulette, except we're all losing, This well-meaning habit actually contaminates recycling streams and sends more stuff to landfills. Oops. Now here's the kicker. Even when plastic does get recycled, it's not exactly living its best life. Instead of becoming new plastic products, it often ends up as low-quality items like Crocs or eco-friendly bird feeders. It's the plastic equivalent of a midlife crisis. So what's the shocking truth about recycling that nobody's talking about? It's a feel-good lie we tell ourselves to justify our plastic addiction. We're not saving the planet, we're just moving the problem around and patting ourselves on the back for it. If recycling isn't the answer, what is? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Or should I say, the million-ton plastic question? Maybe it's time we stop trying to recycle our way out of this mess and start cutting plastic out of our lives altogether. After all, the best way to deal with plastic waste is to not create it in the first place.
The ocean is the life support system for the planet. It's like we're on a ventilator and purposely stepping on our own hose. Oh no, yours gets turned into Crocs and dildos and eco-friendly bird feeders.
Revolutionary? I know. So here we are, folks. The ocean, Earth's big blue life support system, is on the fritz. We're basically unplugging it one plastic bottle at a time. It's like we're trying to turn the planet into one giant landfill with a side of salty water. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. We can still turn this ship around. How about we start by ditching those single-use plastics? Grab a reusable water bottle, say no to plastic bags, and maybe think twice before buying that plastic-wrapped everything. And while you're at it, give your local politicians a nudge. Ask them what they're doing about ocean pollution. If they stammer and stutter, maybe it's time to vote for someone who doesn't think ocean policy is a new brand of dish soap. Here's a thought to keep you up at night. How long until we're all swimming in our own plastic soup? Let's not find out, shall we?